It's time. You have finally decided to get into this incredible tool that everybody keeps talking about. The airbrush. You have seen the results online, you have watched the tutorials of your favorite content creators, and now you want to try it yourself. And almost immediately, confusion hits. What do I buy? What do I avoid? What actually matters? So you do what almost everyone does. You open Amazon, you type airbrush, and suddenly you're flooded with options, cheap and shiny ones, bundles, kits, promises everywhere. So what are we talking about here? Chinese airbrushes. There are many. They're everywhere. They're affordable. They look incredibly appealing. And the question comes naturally. And honestly, it's a fair question. Why will I spend real money on a known brand when I can buy something that looks almost exactly the same for a fraction of the price? Well, I'm going to carpet bomb the truth straight to your face. And by the end of this video, the real question won't be what airbrush you should buy. It'll be whether you're willing to accept the truth and act accordingly. Let's find out, shall we? Let's start with a completely generic, unbranded .2 airbrush. This exact model is sold under dozens of different names. It's everywhere. Now let's put it under the microscope. And immediately we see the problem. The nozzle is heavily offset, not slightly, not with intolerance, just off. Now let's see what it does on the testing sheet. Yes, it sprays paint. However, the lines are inconsistent, they're thick, they break. There are interruptions everywhere and rampant pulsating effect. For something advertised as a .2, there is no precision here at all. And the reason why is because when the nozzle is so offset, the spray cone twists. It expands unnaturally as you get closer to the surface. The airflow hits the needle unevenly, which accelerates tip-dry effect, destroys atomization, and delay response. All of this stacks together, and the end result is frustration. Within 10 minutes, you're annoyed. And the worst part is this: you don't know why. You don't have the experience yet. You don't have the tools to diagnose the problem. You may think you are the issue. So let me attempt to fix it for educational purposes. I carefully recenter the nozzle using dedicated tools for the job. This takes time and experience. It requires patience, small adjustments. Overdoing it may end up making things worse or even break the nozzle post permanently. I will check multiple times the progress under magnification, adjusting again until the nozzle is perfectly centered. Just like this. Now let's look at the spray cone again. You can already see the improvement. The cone is tighter, more even, atomization is better, tip dry is reduced. Is it great? No. But at least we took care of the rough, uneven spray. We improved atomization and response to a certain extent. But here's the real takeaway. When you buy these cheap airbrushes, you don't know which one you're going to get. You may be lucky and get one that's usable. In my experience, most of the time, that's not the case. Now, let's take a look at another generic Chinese airbrush, unbranded. I picked this one up at a tattoo supply store. Under magnification, it's still not perfect. The nozzle is slightly offset. The nozzle cap machining isn't great, but the nozzle walls themselves are more even. They are not excessively thick. On paper, the result is acceptable. The lines are a bit thick, there is no finesse, there are small interruptions, but the response is decent. Atomization is okay. This airbrush wouldn't immediately make you want to throw it out of the window. But let's be very clear, acceptable is not a compliment. This example exists for one reason, to show you how widely performance can vary among cheap Chinese airbrushes. Some are awful, some are passable, and you won't know which one you're going to get. Now, let's talk about one of the most popular cheap brands in the United States, Master Airbrushes. These are probably the most sold airbrushes on Amazon, and I completely understand why. They are cheap, they come in bundles, compressor, airbrush, hoses, tools, different needle sets, and cleaning supplies. Everything in one box. Let's look at the Master G22, probably the most common. This first unit doesn't look too bad under magnification. The nozzle is reasonably centered, the machining isn't horrible. On paper it sprays, paint initiation is acceptable, the lines are thin enough, but they're full of interruptions. The spray pulses, and pulsating like this inevitably accelerates tip dry. And the reason why is because the problem isn't just the nozzle shape and centering, it's internal air channel machining, air cap plating quality, micro burrs, metal shavings, imperfections you can't really see. Now let's look at another G22, same model. Under magnification, this one tells a completely different story. Rough nozzle cap, thick, uneven nozzle walls, badly off-centered. On paper, this is even worse. Paint initiation is extremely slow. Atomization is poor, control is completely gone. Same model, completely different standards. And keep this in mind, because this is not even the worst we're going to see. Next, we're going to look at something a little different. This is the Profile Airbrush. I picked this one up in the German market. Yes, no airbrush can avoid my reach. And I purchased it mainly because I found it very attractive looking. The design is clearly influenced by the harder Steenbeck Infinity. Even the needle adjuster looks almost identical to the Infinity, except it doesn't work. Now, let's look at the airbrush under magnification. And I have to say, it looks very good. The nozzle is well centered, the machining is clean, the geometry looks correct. Nothing jumps out as problematic. So let's move to the testing sheet and see how it actually behaves. And here is where I was genuinely surprised. This airbrush performs very well. The lines are clean and continuous. The response is excellent. Atomization is solid. Yes, air velocity on this one is fairly high, but even with that, it does the job properly. I can get a surprising amount of detail out of it. It's consistent, predictable, and honestly, I like it. This is a fairly decent airbrush. But now that we have seen this one, I want to show you something else. Let's take a look at the recently introduced AK Topline airbrush, and immediately something should look familiar. This is essentially the same airbrush as the Profile, just with a different skin. The AK Topline has a green handle instead of red. The needle adjuster has been changed to something more mainstream, so it doesn't look quite as close as an Infinity. But beyond that, this is the same design, same nozzle set, same architecture. It's very clear that these airbrushes come from the same factory. The biggest difference? The price. So let's look at it under magnification, and this is where things go sideways. When we look closely, the machining quality on the AK Topline is actually much worse than the Profile. At first glance, it looks like the nozzle is offset, but the nozzle itself isn't the problem. What's happening here is that the air cap hole is so badly deformed that it's choking airflow on one side of the nozzle, and that has dire consequences. So let's compare performance, shall we? What I'm doing here with the Profile airbrush is drawing lines at about 1.5 inches from the surface. As you can see, the lines are fairly thin, consistent and clean. Atomization is good. The spray cone is controlled. Now I'm going to do the exact same thing with the AK Topline airbrush. Same distance, same motion, same intent. And the difference is immediate and striking. The lines are much larger. The spray cone is unnaturally expanded and twisted because of how offset the nozzle is in relation to the misshapen nozzle cap. Atomization is also worse because of that. You can see a spitting halo around the lines. The airbrush feels unstable. These two airbrushes are on paper the same tool, but the performance is night and day. And once again we arrive at the same conclusion. When quality control is inconsistent, especially among airbrushes made in China, the result is unpredictability. Same design, same factory, different outcome, and that's the real issue. Now, let's talk about another very popular beginner brand, Neoeco. Visually, these airbrushes are attractive. The designs are unique and proprietary. They look cool, and I understand why people are drawn to them. The attractive looks and the fact that they come with a 0.2, 0.3 and 0.5mm sets is also attractive. But let's look at the nozzle, shall we? Under magnification, the machining is very poor. Rough edges, massive nozzle walls. And the reason why the nozzle walls are so thick on Chinese airbrushes is to increase pass rates at the factory. And the cost of that is a decrease in response, precision, and overall finesse. On paper, the performance matches exactly what we see under the microscope. Inconsistent lines, terrible response, immediate tip dry, no ability to do detail whatsoever. Now let me show you another unit of the same airbrush, just in a different color. You may want to sit down for this one. I sure will. The nozzle is severely deformed. Airflow is completely chocked on one side. Take a very good look. On the testing sheet, I can barely spray paint at all. I'm pulling the trigger almost all the way back just to get paint out. Now imagine this as your first airbrush. You may not think there's something wrong with the tool. You may think you are just bad at this. And that's where people quit. Before we move on, let me show you a few more abominations up close. I want these images burned into your brain before you click buy. I need to take a break. This is too much, even for me. I need to look at something beautiful for a moment, and honestly, you probably do too. And because of that, I want to show you something gorgeous, something special. Let me introduce you the RICHPEN 222B Phoenix. The pinnacle of Japanese precision, finesse, identity. There is a new sheriff in town, and it could be yours. Just follow the link in the description below. Support the channel on Patreon, and for a limited time, get 20% off this ultimate micro detail airbrush. And now it's time to change scenario. Up until now, everything we looked at has been about uncertainty. Getting lucky, getting unlucky, and never really knowing what you're going to get. And that is a terrible place for a beginner to start. So, let me show you the Sparmax MAX-3. This is an entry-level airbrush. It's a 0.3mm nozzle set, and it sits right around $70. And I choose it very intentionally, because this is the price range people skip. They jump from a $20 airbrush straight to a $300 premium airbrush, as if nothing exists in between. But this is where things start to make sense. Let's look at the nozzle under magnification. This is one of my most used airbrushes. And yet, look at the machining. The nozzle is perfectly centered. The walls are thin and even. Nothing is distorted. Nothing is off axis. This is what machining quality looks like. Now let's move to the testing sheet. The difference is immediate. The airbrush responds instantly. The lines are thin, clean and consistent. There is no pulsing, no interruptions, no hesitations. Atomization is excellent. Paint management is predictable and scalable. Imagine what difference it makes to learn on a tool like this. When the airbrush behaves consistently, you can actually improve instead of fighting the tool. And this is what $20 or $30 extra buys you. Control, confidence, and sanity. Let's have a look at the Sparmax HB-040. This is a chunky 0.4mm nozzle set, bigger than any cheap airbrush we looked at earlier. And let's have a look at the nozzle first. Look how clean the machining is. Look how centered it is. Yes, it's a larger setup, but it's made correctly. And that matters more than the number printed on the box. Now, let's look at it on paper. Despite being a 0.4mm set, this airbrush produces thinner, cleaner, more consistent lines than any of the 0.2 or the 0.3 cheap detail airbrushes we tested earlier. There is no pulsing, no fighting, no random behavior. The atomization is excellent, even at low PSI, and the spray cone stays tight and controlled. This is what happens when quality is there. A bad 0.2 behaves like a 0.6, and a good 0.4 feels more precise and surgical. This airbrush costs around $65. Now, this one is special. This is the Sparmax SP-20X, and in my opinion, this is one of the best performing micro detail airbrushes you can buy, regardless the price. Let's look at the nozzle under magnification. Even though this airbrush has been heavily used, look at the centering. Look at the symmetry. Look at how thin and even the nozzle walls are. The nozzle measures 0.19mm, the smallest production nozzle available today. Smaller than a micron, than a Sotar, smaller than an Infinity, smaller than anything else on the market. Now, let's go to the testing sheet. This is where it shines. The lines are incredibly thin, but more importantly, they are stable, even, and continuous. There is no pulsing effect. Atomization at very low PSI is sublime. The response is immediate. The paint starts exactly when you want it to and stops exactly when you tell it to. This airbrush doesn't feel nervous, it's confident. It doesn't feel fragile, it feels precise. This airbrush costs around $70, and when you put it next to some of the most famous, premium, and much more expensive airbrushes out there, the performance gap is much smaller than people think. Now, my all-time favorite, the Badger Sotar 2020. People often criticize the finish on this airbrush. They say it doesn't look as refined as Japanese or German airbrushes, and that might be true. However, the outside of an airbrush doesn't paint miniatures. Let's look at the nozzle under magnification. This is where the quality lives. The nozzle is perfectly centered. The machining is clean. And that relationship between the air cap, nozzle and needle is finely and precisely toned. That's what creates performance. Now, look at it on paper. The response of the Sotar is legendary. There's nothing like it. Paint initiation is immediate. The control is effortless. Some of the finest lines you'll ever experience come naturally, easily, without forcing the tool. And the paint management on this airbrush is outstanding. This is one of those airbrushes that makes you feel like you suddenly got better. Not because it's doing the work for you, but because it finally stops getting in your way. And this airbrush costs around $80 in the United States. And now we reached the top of the mountain. The harder Steenbeck Infinity 2024. This is the premium detail airbrush. It's pricey, and it should be. It represents the highest level of machining, finishing, and refinement available today. And now, with the updated titanium nozzle system, everything you buy for it is the latest revision. Let's look at it under magnification. The machining is flawless. The nozzle and air cap relationship is perfect. Everything is smooth, symmetrical, and precisely aligned. And on paper, of course, it's exceptional. Thin, continuous lines, incredible atomization, total control. This is the best of the best. This is as perfect as a detail airbrush can be under every aspect. This airbrush costs around $245 on Spray Gunner, and it's worth every penny. But here is why it matters on this video. When you compare it to some of the airbrushes we just looked at, like the Sparmax HP-20X or the Sotar 2020, the performance is already there. The gap is much smaller than people expect. At that point, the difference becomes preference, ergonomics, and, ultimately, style. What this proves is simple. You don't need to spend $300 to get premium performance. I hope this was useful and informative. I am confident that now you're ready to make your choice. I'm going to leave a curated list of quality airbrushes under $100. This will include both detail and general use airbrushes. Then I generally consider good and quality tools and great starting points for beginners. Yes, these links are affiliate links through Spray Gunner. If you decide to buy one of these airbrushes using those links, I'll receive a small commission. That commission directly helps me keep making educational videos like this one. So, if you choose to support the channel that way, I truly appreciate it. Thank you for watching. And if you enjoyed this video, leave it a like and subscribe. And join me to become the fastest airbrush slinger in the West.